It's about the I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State. Jalen wants Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers. He's out. No, he's safe.
Phoenix has the foul, and a pinnacle foul throws it down.
DeBrincat gets it back to Goss. He's spinning across now. Kane.
They score! Raymond!
James Bond got to throw, and it's caught by St. Greg for a first down.
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Welcome one, welcome all. I realize that I am decked out in Tigers gear, and the Tigers are not playing tonight. So I'm a little perturbed is not the right word. I'm a little saddened. A little saddened by that. But we're back. We got a lot to talk about. Obviously, the talk of the week is the Detroit Pistons. They did force a game 6, and that's about all they did. So we'll get into it. We'll talk about it because there's a lot to talk about. Not just the game itself, but you know, what are the takeaways of the season? I think there's a lot of people who, you know, they might come away from this season feeling like, you know, missed opportunity or whatever the case might be, that we were better than the Knicks. You know, we'll get into it in just a second here. We also got some NHL playoffs to talk about. The Winnipeg Jets avoid the allegations of the President's Trophy curse. So good for them. They have a miraculous third period two overtime winner over the St. Louis Blues. I got to tell you, I don't know any St. Louis Blues fans, but if you know a St. Louis Blues fan, don't let them in any room with sharp objects, outlets, flames, any live flame. In general, make sure that person's okay. Make sure, just don't bring up hockey, I'd say. Bring up, well, I was going to say baseball, but that might also be a sore spot. You can't bring up football anymore. That's going to be an even sorer spot. Jeez, what can you bring up in St. Louis? They don't have a basketball team. Yeah, I don't know. Did Missouri have a good college basketball season? I don't know. I maybe just don't talk about sport. Talk about anything else with St. Louis Blues fans. And then we also got to talk about this Sharon Moore thing. I'm not going to talk about it for too long because it's just not worth it. And frankly, because Michigan fan is going to be very upset if you ever say anything mean about their super favorite university in the whole wide world. And we got to talk some baseball. I know I'm all decked out in Tiger gear and they're not playing tonight, but you know, we got to talk a little baseball. We're a month into the season, and I got a thought experiment that I want to run by some folks, some peeps, if you will. So let's just jump into the Pistons. So obviously, the Pistons did not win the first round series, and I am eating crow because I truly believed, and I truly still believe, that this Pistons team was very well capable of winning a first round series. Unfortunately, they ran into a very good Knicks team. And the reality is the New York Knicks just straight up have better talent than the Pistons. That I think this is just evident in the games. You can go back and look at the games. They all were very close, and they all, for the most part, came down to the wire. And the Pistons wins were, you know, basically them just getting away with murder in a sense, like just barely squeaking by and staying alive. And the Knicks, it was finishing the game. And the Pistons, throughout the entire series, even in the victories, struggled with finishing games. And that is, I think, basically a indictment on the roster. Don't get it twisted. The roster was what it was for a reason, but obviously the roster was not good enough to go beyond the first round. Maybe if you run back a few of those games, obviously the Tim Hardaway foul, no call, you know, maybe the 21-0 run in game 1, You run some of those games back. Maybe the Pistons come away on top. Ultimately, you don't get anything to show for it. You don't get to do the old, should have, would have, could have game. But either way, I think it would be wrong of me and wrong of any Pistons fan, frankly, to say that this season was anything other than an astounding success. I set the bar basically at 30 games based on the offseason moves, based on the coaching hire. I set the bar at 30 games, and they did that and then some. To go and make the playoffs, to finally end that playoff losing streak, not having won a playoff game since George W. Bush was president, is not a great look. So good for the Pistons to finally do that and finally end that. However, the question then becomes at this point, as the playoffs continue to march on in the NBA, what exactly is the next move for Detroit? I literally, just before the show was getting started, minutes before, I saw a report that the Pistons are interested in re-signing both Malik Beasley and Dennis Schroeder. Now, the Malik Beasley thing, I think absolutely. I think that guy deserves to be re-signed. He was on a 1-year prove-it deal, signed with a team that won 14 games prior, and he was a contender for 6th man of the year. He's one of the best players coming off the bench, one of the most elite shooters from the 3-ball as well. And Dennis Schroeder, I don't mind it either. It does come off to me as okay, you're pretty much pushing out a Marcus Sasser, which is fine. I don't have any gripes about that. But assuming Jaden Ivey comes back fully healthy next year and he's who he is, then Dennis Schroeder is going to be a bench guy for the most part, a depth piece, which is fine. Those guys are maybe they fit with the culture. I think they're solid ball players. I'm definitely game with keeping them. However, your offseason cannot be just bring back the guys, basically. I don't want to be disrespectful, but if you bring back the band, you're probably just going to exit the first round again. This was the result of the band, right? A first round exit. So if you just bring it back, obviously you probably have Isaiah Stewart. You almost certainly would have Jaden Ivey, but how much of an impact are either of those guys into switching the series? Maybe you win one more game, maybe you don't. I don't know. But either way, those are not the kind of moves I think that the Pistons should be interested in. And furthermore, the moves that they need to be making, which is if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. Now, there's a myriad of names out there, and I'm not really married to any big name in particular. But the one name that seems to come up a lot is Devin Booker. Devin Booker's from Grand Rapids, Michigan, so he's from the west side, not the east side where Detroit is. He's from the west side of the state. And he's going to be entering his late 20s, early 30s. And also, he is allegedly, reportedly, being offered $75 million a year for a couple of seasons, or I think it's a 2 or 3 year deal. And my thought is $75 million for a year for Devin Booker. Yes, he would make our team immediately better. Yes, he would be, if not the best player, the second best player behind Cade Cunningham on the team. Do I really want to pay $75 million to a guy who is not a proven winner? I don't really know that he's much of a leader, but maybe kind of sort of wants to be here. I'm not sold on it. But I'd be lying to you if I said that I would be unhappy if Devin Booker was wearing a Detroit Pistons uniform next year. Now, that one is a little bit more unrealistic, to be perfectly honest. I don't think they're going to make that kind of move. That's a really bold move, which, hey, credit to you. If you want to make a bold move pretty early into your tenure here, Langdon, then go for it. The more realistic moves are in some of these ancillary names. Take a guy like Lauri Markkanen, solid player, right, out of Utah. Maybe even a Demontis. I don't know how you pronounce his first name properly. Sabonis out of the Sacramento Kings. Obviously, they just traded De'Aaron Fox, so I don't know what exactly is going on in Sacramento, but I wouldn't be surprised if a vet like Sabonis wants to go to a team that's at least closer to being a contender. The Kings, obviously, they made the play-in this year, so they're not terrible, but they're also not very good, especially, very disappointing since that playoff run they had there for a little bit. Thought maybe they were going to be on the up and up, and then they trade De'Aaron Fox, and everything goes weird. But there is one name, and okay, I'm not saying I want this. However, it would be a headline move. Zion Williamson is, as we all know, a basketball player, technically. And I just want to pull up some stats here as I'm speaking. Now, last year, in the 30 games that he played, he was averaging 24 points, 7 boards, and 5 assists, 2.5 win shares, shooting 56% from the field. He's not a three-point shooter, obviously. He shoots just 23% from the three. But, I mean, he's a power forward slash, I guess technically not a center, but he's a large human being. And he's 24 years old, or he was 24 years old. He did not obviously play a whole lot of basketball games, and this has been the thing about him. He has not played a whole lot of basketball games. In fact, the most amount of games he's played was last season. He played 70 games. He started in all of them, played 31 and a half minutes, and 22 points, 1 steal, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Like that's not bad. I'm not saying that's bad, but it's not. The amount of picks you and or players you would have to move there. That's not an easy sell. Now the thing is, maybe you bring him into Detroit and you sell him on, okay, we're gonna get you on Slim Fast. We're gonna get you into no more sleeping with prostitutes, no more partying all night, no more, not taking care of your body. All right. There's going to be no more of that. Maybe it works out. I'm not very sold on that. And the other name that I'm also not very sold on is one Kevin Durant, who is another guy who I think is pretty controversial. But here's the thing. And let me talk about Kevin Durant first, and then I'll wrap it up here with what I want to point out. Kevin Durant, still a superstar player, I think. Still a very talented player. And one of the things about him, he has consistently been a compliment or been complimentary to Cade Cunningham. I mean, last year, just looking at his stats, 26 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, 62 games, 5.2 win share guy, shoots 43% from 3. He would immediately be one of your top 3-point shooters. And that would certainly give Cade Cunningham some more space to be able to penetrate to the basket, throwing outwards pass to Kevin Durant wide open for 3. And that could be a pretty nice combination. The problem is with Kevin Durant, of course, is he's Kevin Durant, which means he is not good as a leader. Any place that he's gone to be the quote-unquote leader, that place is not won. The closest he got was when he was back with OKC, but obviously that's a long time ago. We're talking at this point, close to a decade ago when he was last on OKC. And look, again, he's a name. I'm not saying that he's realistic. I'm not saying that he's even going to move. He probably will move, but whether or not he ends up going to Detroit, again, I'm not sold on it. I frankly, this is a name where if I saw that we got him, I would be like, okay, well, this is either going to be the worst move this is either going to be a move that gets Trajan Langdon fired, or it's going to be the move that gets Detroit a championship. And there's pretty much no in between. Like, you're only going to have him for a couple of years. He's 36 years old, obviously going to be nearing the twilight of his career. His numbers he hasn't, gotten, to his MVP form in a very long time, but, he's still a really solid player, still a 20-plus point player. You pair him with Cade, and then even potentially with the development of Ivy, it could be exciting at the very least. Now, with all of these names, and I didn't go through all the stats and all these guys, I didn't even list every single possible guy that we could be going after. With all these names, I want to just make this point because one of the things, especially with free agency, especially with trades, that a lot of Detroit fans and a lot of just fans in general will do is you get addicted to your own supply. So you become so enamored with Jaden Ivey or Asar Thompson or Ron Holland that you can't see the obvious, which is X player right now is much better than Y player right now. Y player being the guy on your team. Like whether or not it's a wise move long term, whether or not it will actually give you a championship, Kevin Durant is a better player than Jaden Ivey right now. That's just a fact. I don't think that's controversial. Okay. Will Jaden Ivey end up being a better player than current Kevin Durant? I hope so. I think he looked really good for the Pistons when he was healthy. But you break your leg, that's never a good sign, especially for a hyper athletic guy like Jaden Ivey. Here's what I want to say. Don't get high on your own supply of guys. And don't be so picky with who you want the Pistons to go after that it basically turns into don't do anything. Because that I don't think is acceptable. I think if the Pistons have another quiet off season like they did last year, sure, they'll still be a competitive team and they'll still potentially be a team in the playoffs. But I'll be suspicious. It's similar to what the Tigers did, although granted it's working out for the Tigers having a quieter off season. But at the very least, you're going to have to really show the steps forward that Cade, Asar, and of course Ivy will have to take if you are, content with, what? We don't want to trade for a superstar. We don't want to sign a big name free agent. Like, okay. All right, if you don't want to do that, I'm not saying it absolutely positively cannot work. What I am saying is the guys that you're going to bring in, no, they're not going to be perfect. Of course, they're going to have some warts. But if you want to be serious about winning, you might have to make the kind of moves that you're maybe not be that comfortable with. I mean, remember just a few years ago when the Wolves traded to get Rudy Gobert? I think a lot of people that raised some eyebrows at that trade or the Julius Randle deal. Or, with the Cavaliers going to get Donovan Mitchell. Is Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, or Julius Randle, are any of those guys perfect players? No. But if you have trust in the GM, you'll trust that he'll make the right move. I have a good amount of trust in Trajan Langdon. I think him and JB did a fantastic job this year. So I'm willing to see what they want to do. Now, of course, the results, if it's bad next year and the team does not improve or does not seem improved, then obviously, yes, you'll hear from me later. But as it stands right now, you have an opportunity to set yourself in the East. And obviously, with the way the playoffs go, different guys might become more available. Who knows? If the Celtics get bounced, I don't know. Like they don't have the money to be able to keep a lot of those guys. So either way, it's going to be an interesting offseason for the Pistons. One way or the other, both signing free agents, bringing some guys back, and then of course the guys who are hurt, getting them back healthy. There's a lot that can be done, and frankly, a lot that should be done to improve the roster. But who knows? Just please don't do Kevin Durant. I don't want to have to do those shows. Please don't. I've already had to make fun of Kevin Durant on this show. I don't want that to come back to hurt me. Please? Or Zion. That also would be that. Well, that at least would be kind of funny. If it works out, it could be spectacular. But anyway, that's it. That's the segment. I'm just thinking, like, because the thing is, Trajan Langdon, obviously, he was a part of the New Orleans Pelicans for, that era. Well, it's still the era of Zion, but like while Zion was there. So as much as I don't really want it, because I just think it'd be like, oh dear, this is truly boom or bust. I could see that one happening. Like, in a weird way, this might sound crazy to some people. I could see Zion Williamson more than I could see Devin Booker. It's weird to say that because Devin Booker certainly would want to play here, or at least he appears to want to play here. But I don't know. Like, I just don't. The thing is, like, Devin Booker is one of those weird guys where he's like, "Oh yeah, I love the state. I love the state of Michigan. I love Detroit. I'm a big represent the state." And it's like, "Oh well, where'd you go to college? Did you go to Western Michigan? Kind of weird, but did you go to Western? No, okay. Did you go to Central? Central? No, not Central. Okay. Well, it's a bigger university. That makes sense. Bigger university. What about Michigan? Michigan's a Big Ten team. No, he didn't go to Michigan. All right, what about Michigan State? They're the premier college basketball team in the state of Michigan. Tom Izzo's a Hall of Fame, one of the greatest college pro, and he didn't. He went to Kentucky, and so that my thought is like, oh, you love the state of Michigan so much, you never played here outside of high school, but you didn't have much choice. Anytime he had a choice, the one time he had a choice, I guess, he didn't. And to be fair, we did have a chance to draft him as the Pistons, but we did not. I think that was the Stanley Johnson year. Actually, I don't. Hold on. Now I want to look that up. Who did we draft over Devin Booker? Let's take a look. Do I really want to take a look? I kind of want to take a look. All right. He's 13th overall pick. Okay. Yes, it was Stanley Johnson. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he was taken 5 picks later. Utah took Trey Lyles over Devin Booker, so that who's a teammate of his. So that's even that's tough. I mean, this draft class also wasn't that great, and you had a couple of nice players. Karl Anthony Towns is in this draft. D'Angelo Russell, Kristaps Porzingis. Okay. Man, it's great. Like, the NBA draft is like, there's just so many of these guys. Who the heck are they? Like, are any of these guys even remotely good? Who the heck is Pat Connaughton? Actually, I feel like he's still in the league. Yeah, that's right. He played for the Bucks. He still plays for the Bucks. Okay. Seth knows who that is. Wow. That's crazy. Anyway, Pistons took Stanley Johnson over Devin Booker. So, don't want to talk about it. All right. Speaking of basketball, let's break down the rest of these playoffs here. So, a lot to talk about. The Nuggets. The Nuggets and Clippers game. Nuggets and Clippers series, I should say. The Nuggets advance. They win the series 4-3, game 7. And look, I full disclosure, did not really watch this game. However, I got to tell you, I did not need to look at the box score to tell you how one particular player was going to play. And if you don't know who that one particular player is, that would be one James Harden. So, James Harden played 35 minutes in Game 7. Winner take all, okay? He shot the ball just 8 times and made 2 shots. He had a total of 7 points. He had a block. He had 2 steals. He had 13 assists, so that's pretty good. And 5 rebounds. So almost a triple single. Almost. He had the 13. He was passing the ball pretty well. But his plus minus, for those of you who take this with any worth, was minus 29. Which, granted, was not as bad as Kawhi's, but at least Kawhi had 22 points. Also not great, but, better. And I just, look, all right, I feel like I've said this a million times. James Harden just is a born loser. And I don't mean to say like he's a bad player or he's a bad guy. I just mean to say, when you need him in a win or take or go home game, right? Win or take all. When you need him most, he will not be there. He will not show up. If he was a fireman and your house was burning down, he would show up at the house next door 40 minutes late. And yet, the Clippers are content with hanging with him. I mean, like, look, here's the thing. When he loses in OKC, okay, fine. First team, I understand, young player, fine. When they move on from Harden to Houston, and he's an MVP, and they're one of the top teams in the league, Houston, and he lays another egg in Houston, which he's done multiple times. And then he moves on to Brooklyn, joins the super team, Kyrie, Kevin Durant, the Brooklyn Nets. And of course, he does not do much of anything for them. And then he forces his way out there. And he goes to Philadelphia. And now again, he's in the sewer. He's got Joel Embiid. He's got Maxey. He's got guys around him. Okay, here we go, James. This is your ride. This is where you're going to finally break through. And he lays an egg there. And then he forces his way out of there. And by this point, I would think that the NBA executives would say, okay, look, great player, all-time Hall of Famer, 10-time All-Star, one of the all-time great players of this era, will go down easily as a unanimous Hall of Famer. But yet, he has this streak in him where he will just disappear when you need him most. And teams will still say, yeah, I'll take it. Like, the Clippers were such a fun story this year because they just kind of came out of nowhere. Kawhi was getting healthy. Things were going so well. And then, of course, they go to a Game 7 with Denver. And what do you know? James Harden doesn't show up. What do you know? Least surprising news of the NBA playoffs is James Harden once again not showing up. And I guess, I don't know how many years he really has left in the tank, how many years he even wants to continue doing this, because obviously I'm sure it wears on him as much as it wears on the fans that root for the teams that he plays for. Like, how do teams keep doing this? Like, if they move on from James Harden and the Clippers, I gotta know, like, what team is gonna do it? And don't let it be the Pistons. If the Pistons go and get James Harden, then I'll lose my mind, because then I'll know for sure we're never gonna win anything. like if he couldn't win anything with Kevin Durant 2 times over with 2 separate teams, no. I don't. It's like the Kevin Durant, James Harden, and I guess like Paul George. I know he wasn't. He's not on the team anymore, I don't think. Actually, wasn't he on the team? Maybe. I'm pretty sure he got hurt, didn't he? I think Paul George got hurt. I think. I actually don't even know where Paul George is. Isn't he with Philly? Hold on. Is he with Philly? Hold on. What happened to Paul George? Where is he? Is he with Philly? Yes, he's with Philly. Yes. Okay. I remember now. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, those 3 guys, those are like the trifecta of losers. Like, they are the losers of the NBA. And for a time, the Clippers had 2 of them. For a time. So, I'm sure James Harden's a very nice man. I would be honored to meet him one day, if ever. But man, I like you go out there, you shoot 25% from 3, and you shot 8 times. What? I don't. Maybe some of it's coaching. But at a certain point, it's like, yeah, well, it's kind of you. Like, the common denominator, James, is you. You are the common denominator. But credit to the Nuggets, man. They are just a machine. Michael Porter Jr. Had 15 points, was a plus 31 player. No one in particular really took over that game. Jokic just had 16 points. Aaron Gordon was the leading scorer for the Nuggets. And if he's a leading scorer, that must tell you, okay, maybe it wasn't that great of a game. It didn't matter because James Harden was on the other side. And when James Harden is on the other side of a playoff matchup, pick the other team. Pick the team James Harden is not playing for, and you'll be good. So there's that series. So I do got to talk about this, all right, as well, because I hate to say I told you so, and I know technically I kind of did this last week, but officially it did end. the Lakers get the gentleman sweep to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Frankly, this series was never all that close. You look at the margin of victory for most of these games. You know, the Lakers had a couple of games there that were pretty close, but the Wolves were just playing with their food. I mean, like they out rebounded them, they out assisted them. Obviously, they outscored them. They outscored them in this series by 7 points. So multiple possessions. Anthony Edwards was the leading player with just 26 points. Luka Doncic had 30 points. I say just 26 points, please. That's incredible. He had 26 points a game. But the thing that gets me about this is, you know, when Darvin Ham gets knocked out of the playoffs, you know, it's all Darvin's fault. It's, oh my gosh, he's so terrible. He can't do anything right. But then JJ Redick, the ESPN genius out of Duke, comes in. And he's so smart. Oh, he's just he's a boy genius. See, he's finally got the Lakers going. And he gets Luka Doncic. See, look, it is not possible that he can lose. And of course, he inevitably loses because the problems with the Lakers are far deeper than coaching. Although coaching is a problem because you can't have a guy go out there and throw his starters out there for 100 million minutes, not realizing that he has a bench. Like, of course, your guys are going to come out slow in a game after you just had them play 45 minutes. Like, he's in over his head. He's never been a head coach ever. The closest he's ever been to any sort of analytical role is when he was, you know, insulting players in the 1990s for being plumbers and mailmen on ESPN. The thing is, and this might shock some people, JJ Redick is just not that smart. As a basketball leader, as a basketball, you know, analyst, you know, I'm sorry, I lose a lot of respect for a guy who just says, well, you know, Michael Jordan was playing against mailmen, or guys in the 70s were, you know, basically just overweight drunks. So of course, you know, Wilt Chamberlain was good because he was playing against nobodies. You know, okay, fine. If that's how you feel, then just tell me you don't know anything about the game of basketball, despite the fact that you played it for a very long time. Like, or at the very least, you're just being unreasonable. Either way, I just wanted to point that out because I don't like JJ Redick, and I think this whole Lakers organization is just, the moment LeBron leaves, they're gonna just plummet. I'm telling, like, obviously they got Luka now, so maybe they don't completely plummet. But JJ is your head coach. I don't think that's going to last. I don't know how much longer LeBron has, but look, the Lakers have been mediocre since their last title in the bubble. You know, at a certain point, it's just kind of like an organizational problem, and you need to just start over. And you have a superstar in Luka Doncic that you can build around, you know, but it's funny on that point as well. A lot of people had been kind of relitigating the Luka trade as, you know, obviously the defense for the Lakers went down when Anthony Davis was sent away. Now, I do want to point this out. Yes, it is true that the defense gets worse when Anthony Davis is not on the team. No, that is not an excuse for the Lakers getting aced again in the playoffs. Luka Doncic is currently right now a far better player than Anthony Davis. Did I say Anthony Edwards? I think I said Anthony Edwards. I don't know why those two guys in my mind, it's like I always mix up the names. Anthony Davis, yes, he's not as good of a player as Luka Doncic. Furthermore, I don't care how bad your defense is. Luka Doncic was averaging 30 points a game this series. Like, come on. I mean, like, close out a game. You're telling me you have nobody who can play defense? Then that's is an organizational problem. That's far deeper than, you know, put Anthony Davis on the team. You'd still probably lose the playoffs here. So, yeah. Although I am glad to see them eliminated because it's the Lakers. And, you know, it's always fun to watch them lose. All right. Moving along then. I gotta say, I realize I'm focusing entirely on the Western Conference because there wasn't really a whole lot to talk about in the Eastern Conference. But man, the poor Rockets. Like number 2 seed, they finally emerge. They got a lot of young, exciting talent. Amen Thompson, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith. I think he's on their team. I think. Pretty sure he is. They got a lot of nice young players, and they play the Warriors, and they just lay a pumpkin. They just become pumpkins. I was gonna say lay a pumpkin. They lay an egg. They just become a pumpkin. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Like that. This one was just so disappointing. Like your leading scorer was Alperen Sengun. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right at all. He did have a double-double, 11 rebounds and 20 points. But I mean, you just can't do it. I like the Warriors. I did say going into this playoffs, man, they could be a sleeper team. They're now, 4 victories away from a conference finals appearance. Steph Curry is who he is. He's an elite player, but Jimmy Butler in the playoffs can really turn it on. I think this Wolves-Warriors series, that's definitely going to be must-see TV. All right, that series starts tonight at 9:30, which sucks because I will not really be able to watch that game. So I just said it was must-see TV, but then I realized I have to work for a living, so I cannot watch those whole games. Thank you, NBA. Very great league. I understand it's Central Time and Pacific Time, so they got to deal with what they got. But either way, I don't know. Maybe the Rockets. Maybe they'd said something bad about California some point in the past. It's just unfortunate. Just unfortunate. You hate to see it, as they say in the streets. You hate to see it. But either way, right now the Cavs are taking it to the Pacers after a game 1 loss. And the Nuggets as well. I didn't even mention this. The Nuggets with basically a buzzer beater game winner over the Thunder last night. The Thunder can't have another year where they're the number 1 seed, where they're like the top team in the NBA and they just get bounced. Like, I want to be able to watch the Oklahoma City Thunder, and most of their games are too late for me to be able to watch. Right, so I just please let them make the finals so that I can actually get to watch this team, because all they do is be victorious. All they do is win. I don't know why I said that like a Shakespearean, like it was a Shakespearean soliloquy. No, like all they do is win. They have so many good players. It's so much fun as a team, and I don't get to watch them because they make the playoffs and then last year they swept the Pelicans. This year they swept the Grizzlies. Like, can we please not lose in the second round? Please. Please. I don't think they listen to me. All right. So I want to get into the NHL playoffs here, but there is actually a Red Wings topic that I want to get into, at least briefly. So I didn't watch the lottery, but in case you did not watch the lottery and you did not see the results, the Red Wings, to the surprise of very little, got screwed in the draft lottery again. And by screwed, I don't mean they didn't get the number 1 overall pick. I don't even know if that was mathematically possible, but they move up a spot. So I believe they were at the 12th spot and they move up to the 13th spot. So they get screwed by the lottery. And if you look up which teams have the best lottery luck historically, the Red Wings are bottom of the list. Like, they have the worst draft lottery ever. I think they're tied with the Ottawa Senators, whom, by the way, made the playoffs this year. So I just want to point that out. But the whole the whole conversation revolving around the Red Wings this past, I guess, from yesterday to today, particularly on Reddit, is, oh my gosh, we get screwed in the lottery again. This is so unfair to Steve Yzerman. How is he ever going to get us out of this rebuild if he just keeps getting screwed in the lottery? And you know what? I'm out of sympathy. I don't care. I simply do not care. You want to say you got screwed? Yep. You want to say you've been the least lucky team in the NHL in terms of lottery luck? Yep. I do not care. And nor should you. You want to know why? Because I don't care if you literally are the worst luck team in the NHL. 6 years into a rebuild, you should not be on the outside looking into the playoffs. Last I checked, the Dallas Stars didn't have a whole lot of great draft luck lottery, and they're not that far from a conference finals appearance. You know, like last I checked, like I just said, the Ottawa Senators, they have as bad of draft luck lottery as you, and they just made the playoffs and almost took the Leafs to a game 7. So that's what I don't want to hear. What I don't want to hear is all of these people saying, oh my gosh, see, this is why, because Stevie can't catch a break. You know what Stevie can do with this draft pick? He can say, all right, I don't want to use this draft pick. I'm going to take this pick, and I'm going to take maybe a player or two on the team, and maybe I'll take some of these prospects that are allegedly very good NHL level players, and I'm going to throw them at another team and say, give me your best player. And we're just going to expedite this. We're going to speed this rebuild up. We're going to say, you know what we're doing isn't working, clearly. So let's do something new. Because let me tell you something. Whomever we pick 13th overall will not help us next year, won't help us a year from or 2 years from now, may not help us 3 years from now, and maybe, hopefully, will help us 4 years from now. But if we're talking 4 years down the road, assuming that the Yzerman truthers are correct, and that this team will just miraculously become a contender as soon as Axel Sandin Pellikka finally makes the NHL roster, assuming those people are absolutely right, and I'm just a dumb, stupid idiot who doesn't know anything about hockey, assuming those people are right, 4 years down the line, this team will already, presumably, be a Stanley Cup contender or a Stanley Cup winner. So I don't even care about the prospect at that point because I don't care. All of the team is set. Like, oh, great. We have an 18, 19-year-old, well, maybe not 18, 19-year-old, 20, 21-year-old player who is on the fourth line of a alleged Stanley Cup team. Now, I'm not stupid enough to believe that that's actually going to be the case, but some of these hockey fans truly believe this. So my thought is, well, whether we are a contender or not, we trade the pick, we get better now, and it's more worth our while long-term anyway. Because, again, that player is not going to help us at least until 2029, maybe 2030, the way these prospects are developing. And furthermore, I have to talk about this as well. Steve Yzerman gave a press conference where he said, and let me actually pull up the exact quote. Let me pull this up really quick. So here's from Brad Galley, who I believe works for Fox 2. I believe that's the case. Steve Yzerman assessed goaltender Sebastian Cosa's progress. And I quote, I'm not prepared today to put him in the NHL. This is a big playoffs for him. He's going to have to take another step here if we want to count on him to be in Detroit next year. You know what? This is my live reaction to that information.
Oh no! Oh no!
That is incredible. Incredible. First of all, let me just look up where Sebastian Cossa, when he was drafted, first of all. Elite prospects. Maybe it's have the draft year. It might not have the draft year. No, hold on. Got to find the draft year. I believe it's Hockey DB. Okay. He was drafted 15th overall in 2021. 2021. I was still in college when they drafted him. 5 years ago, they drafted this guy, and Steve Yzerman says, yeah, I'm just not ready to bring him in the NHL. What? Not ready to bring him to the... When are you going to be ready? Half a decade has gone by since we drafted this guy. Next year, you're not ready to bring him up? That will be 2020. That is 5 years ago. It's currently 4 years ago. but it will be 5 years since he got drafted, and you're not ready to bring him up? Does he just stink? Like, what is that? What you're trying to avoid? Are you trying to just avoid? You know what, guys? To be honest with you, he just kind of stinks. Is that what you're trying to say? I mean, he's been terrible in the playoffs with a 789 save percentage. That's not good. 829 goals against average. Now, granted, it's one game, so that number is a little big. He didn't even start in the last playoff game either. So, like, what really is the point? Okay, like, he had just a modicum of NHL. They gave him one game this year and then threw him back in the garbage because apparently Peter Mrazek needs to get some ice time. That old Peter Mrazek guy, he really needs that experience of the NHL. Like, let me tell you something. If he's not ready to call up Sebastian Cossa, what will be 5 years since he got drafted, then what evidence do I really have that this guy actually is a good drafter? Because every pick that has panned out has been the first pick in the first round that in each of their respective drafts. Moritz Seider was his first pick. Lucas Raymond was his first pick. Simon Edvinsson was his first pick. Marco Kasper, his first pick. The other guys, the Elmer Soderbloms of the world, filler guys. Not really top of the line guys, all right? Albert Johansson, maybe he's got a high upside, but we're going to have to wait because he's going to develop here at the NHL level. And so do, frankly, the first-round picks. So I'm already dubious of the claim that he's just such a great drafter because all of the guys that he's drafted that have done well have been first picks, okay? And none of them are, superstars outside of maybe Lucas Raymond. Mo Seider, good player, good defenseman. He's not Cal McCarr. All right, he's not Dylan Carlson. I think is it Dylan Carlson? Carlson, the defenseman. I might have gotten the first name wrong. Oh, they're gonna jump on me for that. You don't even know his name. Your league has like 30 fans. What do you want from me? I'm one of them. Anyway, so look, I'm already basically on the fire Steve Yzerman train because I don't have any belief in him. But if he wants to regain my support, do something bold. We're going to do something unpredictable. Actually package together this pick, this 13th pick, maybe a couple of prospects. Not maybe, you certainly will have to package a couple of prospects. Maybe some picks. Maybe a current player or two. I don't know. Any combination of these things that I'm stating, and go out there and say, I want Elias Pettersson. I don't know. Name a player that could be on the trade block. There's plenty of guys out there. What's his name? Zibanejad out of New York. I'm not saying any of these guys are necessarily going to be traded. I'm giving you names, okay? If you go out and you get Pettersson or Zibanejad, those guys would immediately be top players on your team. That's just a fact. All right, you could scoff, you could pretend, you can act as though Lucas Raymond is Patrick Kane in his prime. Okay, maybe he will be someday, but he's not right now. So look, I don't have much faith in this anyway. But the Red Wings absolutely should be trading that pick, and if they do take that pick, then you know what? Steve Yzerman will never be fired, and I'm just gonna have to sit here and embrace the suckitude and the mediocrity because we're just not gonna ever win with Steve Yzerman as the general manager. And maybe this will age like milk, and I hope it does. But the way it looks right now, he is in over his head, and he is skating by on his name alone. So, fun stuff. I realized I didn't even put that on the show sheet. So that was just entirely, improvised. So that's fun. Speaking of fun, the Leafs, they do avoid the choke. Okay, so they managed to avoid the 3-0 comeback from the Senators. But now they have to play Florida. However, They got one game on them. And frankly, they kind of dominated. I mean, the final score 5-4 does not indicate they were up in this game not pretty much the whole time they were up in this game. Tomorrow is game 2. The Panthers are a feisty team. And, if they go down 2-0, going back to Florida, that could be dangerous. But my hope is this. The Panthers will not necessarily get so far out of this that they'll, lose the series outright, but that the Leafs they'll give themselves a little bit of hope. And that hope is a dangerous thing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then the Panthers will just snatch it right out of their hands and just smash it to pieces. So that's my hope. As I'm very unbiased in this. So, speaking of the Hurricanes and the Capitals, their game is no score after the first period. So not a whole lot to update on that. Winnipeg, however, game 7, one of the most incredible game 7s I've had the pleasure of watching. 1.7 seconds to go, something like that. Winnipeg scores a game-tying goal with the empty net, and they win in second overtime. I got to tell you, I mentioned it at the top of the show. If you know a Blues fan, please check on him. Please. That's a brutal way to lose a playoff series. So the Winnipeg Jets avoid the President's Trophy curse allegations for now. Because the team they have to play is another team that had an amazing comeback in the third period, and that is the Dallas Stars. Mikko Rantanen went off in this game. I mean, first of all, can I just look at this? This is just a beautiful. So, first period, no score. Okay. Second period, 1-0 Colorado. Josh Manson with O'Connor assisting. Okay. Then McKinnon in the third period. It's 2-0. McKinnon, one of the possible MVPs of this year. 2-0 Colorado. They do it just 31 seconds in. Might be a dagger. And then Mikko Rantanen comes alive. He cuts the lead in half with his third goal of the postseason. Then he gets a game-tying goal to make it 2-2. 13 minutes into the third period. Then Wyatt Johnston comes in and gives the Dallas Stars the lead. Now 3 unanswered goals for the Stars. And then the icing on the cake. Empty netter. Mikko Rantanen gets the Hattie, and the revenge tour ends. I got to tell you, speaking of teams similar to the Lakers, ever since the Avalanche have won that title, they have not done well in the playoffs. And I know, it's difficult. Sometimes this does just happen. You lose guys in free agency or in trades that were glue guys, to be like, they don't have. It's funny because I don't think he's a very good player anymore, but JT Compher was on that Cup team, and he was good enough for them at that time. And now you lose him, and you've lost other players as well, and Mikko Rantanen being one of them that you weren't willing to pay him, and well, he made you pay. So I think out of the West here, Dallas right now, they feel like, maybe it's just recency bias. They feel like the most red hot team because, with Edmonton, okay, they beat the Kings again. At a certain point, it's like, okay, does it even matter? And then with Vegas beating the Wild, I literally have nothing to say about that series. It could be interesting though. Vegas Edmonton though, that could be an interesting series. So, and that series will kick off tonight, I believe. Edmonton versus Vegas. So, cool stuff. Wait. Felt that sneeze coming on, and I had to sneeze. All right. Before we get into baseball, I do want to briefly talk about this, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it because it's May. College football does not start for a very long time. But Sharon Moore is reportedly getting suspended by the University of Michigan for a couple of games. Okay? Obviously, this is related to the sign stealing stuff and the deleting of evidence and, the complicity. I'm not going to get into it because, it's the situation is already very clear to anybody with a brain. So I'm not going to go into it. The two games, though, you would think are week 1 and week 2. No. They are the Central Michigan game and I believe the Nebraska game, which are not, in fact, week 1 and week 2. In fact, let me actually pull up the exact weeks that they are. Michigan football schedule. Those would be weeks 3 and 4. Now, why would Michigan not want to just do weeks 1 and 2? I mean, week 1, you're playing New Mexico. That seems, that should be a pretty easy game. I mean, New Mexico, not a very good football, not a very high caliber football team. But week 2 is against Oklahoma on the road. And well, it might be a little hard if you don't have the head coach. So yeah, I mean, it makes more sense. Let's do the Central game and then Nebraska, I guess. To make it seem like okay, we're making it a little tough because it's Nebraska on the road, and maybe Matt Rule will finally get it right this year. After however many years he's been there. I gotta tell you, originally I was like, man, this is just so. I was like getting mad about this. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, you know what? It's kind of funny. like my thought is, okay, assuming the NCAA does drop some suspensions, if not, outright, banning Sharon Moore completely, which I don't think is complete. I don't think is totally out of the picture, albeit it is probably very unlikely. Like, if you're gonna just choose the two game, why not just do New Mexico and Central Michigan? like that's my thought. Like, you might as well just say, you know what? Let's do Purdue and Central. Like, what do they expect? Like, what does Michigan expect exactly for the NCAA to respond? Like, they are basically saying, look, we're going to self-impose a punishment. We at the University of Michigan, we don't stand for this kind of dishonesty. Sharon, you're suspended for 2 games. And those 2 games are right sort of in the middle of the year randomly. What? Like, what? Like, I feel like I don't really have words for that. Like, could you imagine, like, if, like, let's just say, oh my gosh, what's his name? The guy who, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on, like, AJ Hinch. That's AJ Hinch. No, that's the Tigers manager. Who am I thinking of that? Oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking. All right, let's just make up a scenario. Could you imagine, like, a player or a team was, or a coach or whatever, caught on a hot mic or doing something bad. Let's just say some sort of sexual assault or some sort of some sort of crime. Could you imagine the balls of, like, that organization to say, hey, you know what if we look, we really don't want to miss the rivalry game without our head coach, so what do you say we do week 1 and let's do week 6. Just random game in the middle of the year. What do you think? It's like, how could you do that? Like, how could you possibly, like, I mean, look, I'm assuming this is just going to go through, but the thought is, like, well, if the NCAA says, no, actually, you're suspended all 12 games, I guess then we would be suspended for the 2 games you already chose. But, like, this is just poking the bear. Like, this is just saying to the NCAA, hey, I dare you to punish us even more. I just don't understand it. It just seems just stupid. Like, you might as well just, like, I understand. You might as well not even self-impose a punishment. Like, if you're going to self-impose a punishment that is so obviously insincere, right? You don't actually seem to think that there's the seriousness to this. You're just going to say, yeah, okay, we'll suspend you, but we don't want it to be anything of an inconvenience. We'll suspend you for these two particular games. Like, you're clearly not repentant. Like, you're clearly not actually sincere in your guilt. So, okay, let's see what happens if the NCAA does end up dropping a hammer. I don't really suspect they will, because this thing just seems to take forever. And the longer these sorts of things take, the less likely I feel that there's anything of any note, because we're just going to be let on and let on and let on and then let down. But, we'll see what happens. like I in a way, like I hate Michigan, and I want nothing more for them than to lose. But in a way, I kind of want to see if this works. Like, if the NCAA says, all right, you guys you can do this. Like, at this point, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna start doing this. It's like, player got caught using steroids. Yeah, we're gonna suspend you for let's say the Browns game. Yeah, we probably don't really need you for the Browns game. Like, if I'm Central or if I'm Nebraska, I'm thinking, oh, okay. Well, then we'll just, like, is that how you feel about us? Like, because if you just suspend the first two games, okay, yeah, okay, first 2 weeks you suspend it. But you deliberately chose these 2 games. So, hey, maybe Central will come out and, I don't know, they'll come out swinging, or Nebraska will come out swinging. I doubt it, but, we'll see. We'll see. All right. So, now I want to get into a little bit of baseball. So I'll get into the rest of the league, but obviously, decked out in Tigers gear. Got to talk about my Tigers. And it is something of a national story, I think, because the Tigers are the best team in the American League by a couple of games, actually. They currently have a 2-game lead over the Guardians in their own division. They're 22-13. They have a plus 63 run differential. They're 13-3 at home. Granted, they're 9-10 on the road, but that very well could change after their Colorado Rockies trip rounds out in the next couple of days here. The Tigers have shown out, obviously. Like, they're a very good team. And I can go through some of the stats here for you in case you don't really believe. Let me pull up the where they rank as a team. Hold on here. Let's see. Stats. Can I do not player? I want to do team. Here we go. So, as a team, they're 5th in home runs with 47. They are 6th in OPS. They are 5th in RBIs. And let's see what they're at in batting average. They are 7th in batting average. I mean, these are just standard stats, but you could probably go down and look at some of the other stats too. The Tigers offensively are one of the top teams in the league. Top 10, and I just laid out all the stats. Top 10, top 5 in a lot of these stats. On the pitching side, the Tigers are, let's see, I don't know where they are in strikeouts. Probably they're 12th in strikeouts. In batting average against, they are 4th. Is there not an ERA? Yeah, here it is. In ERA, they are 3rd with a sub-3 ERA as a team. The only teams that are better are the Padres and the Mets. Padres, one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. Obviously, they're not one of the best. They are the best, essentially. And again, and WHIP as well. Take a look at where they are in that. They're 3rd in WHIP. Like, the question for me is this. Or it's not exactly a question. It's more of a prompt. The Tigers are a blank team. And You fill in the blank with any word you want. The Tigers are a wild card playoff team. The Tigers are a fake team. The Tigers are a stacked team. The Tigers are a American League Central Division team. Or division champion team, I mean. And I know we're only a month in. But are the Tigers a World Series team? Again, we just went through the team stats. They're in the top 10, top 5 in pretty much every major, pretty standard, statistical category in both the pitching side and on the offensive side. I am hesitant to say they are a World Series team for this reason and this reason alone. There's no one player in particular in their lineup that I think, okay, this is a guy that is just a killer. There's only so many of these kinds of guys, so bear with me. There's no Aaron Judge, right? There's no Bobby Witt Jr. There's no Juan Soto in this lineup. Again, those guys are one of ones. There's only so many of those guys out there. However, you do have some players that you look at and you're like, okay, frankly, these guys are pretty darn good. I mean, Spencer Torkelson's already got 10 home runs on the year. Like, his average is only 234, which is it's been sort of on the downturn as of late. But his OPS is 889. So, I'll take a 234 average with an 800 plus, almost 200, almost 900 OPS and double-digit home runs already in just the first month of play. Yeah, I'll take that. But you also have guys like Kerry Carpenter. He's got an 870 OPS, and he's almost batting 300. I mean, Kerry Carpenter's playing like an all-star right now. Riley Green, same deal. He was an all-star last year. 808 OPS, 274 average, 8 homers, 21 ribbies for him. Strikeouts a little less than ideal. He's got 41 strikeouts on just 8 walks. Not ideal, but, give it some time. Let the stats play out a little bit. Even a guy like Dylan Dingler. I mean, Dylan Dingler was a prospect for the Tigers, a pretty high-touted prospect for a while, and he's just come up, and the development of him as a hitter, it's been really good. He's batting over 300, 301 average with an 804 OPS. He's got 4 home runs, 15 RBIs. He hasn't walked, which is not great. Like, he's not Pudge Rodriguez necessarily, but he's clearly a really solid player. I mean, when you're top 4 on your team in home runs and you have an over 800 OPS and a 301 average, this team's got some nice young players. But again, they don't have that guy that you see him in the lineup or you see him at the plate, 2 outs, man at second, man at third, whatever, and you're down 1. That just strikes fear into you. Maybe that guy is becoming Kerry Carpenter or Riley Green or even, frankly, Spencer Torkelson. But the thing that will absolutely convince me that, okay, this team is World Series caliber is, and maybe this is just, we'll have to wait and see. It's a while away. Just how much better this team gets, for one, once those injuries wear off, once you get Parker. Are we back? I have no idea. It says my connection is unstable. I don't know what happened. Hopefully I don't know what happened. Are we live? We'll do it live. Why does it say my connection is unstable? I don't know. That was weird. Okay. Anyway, maybe when you get Matt Vierling back, which should be sooner rather than later, I believe he's already with AAA. And Parker Meadows, only time will tell. But he was obviously instrumental defensively for you last year, and offensively, he was fantastic. When he came back, he was batting like 300. He had some pop as well. He had a home run in the postseason against the Astros. Look, you got a lot of potential here in this Tigers team, but I need to see them make that move at the trade deadline. I talked about it before the season started. Vladdy Guerrero Jr., I believe they already gave him a deal at this point. I don't remember. Actually, I don't know. Maybe they didn't give him a deal. I don't remember. I would love for Vlad Guerrero Jr. That would be awesome. But, maybe there's some other players that are more reasonable. Maybe there's, guys on teams that are not as good. And, maybe it's, oh my gosh, what's the name of the guy? Brent Rooker. out in Oakland. Right? Isn't he? Yeah. He's not having a great start, but he's a good player. 241 average to start. He's got a 122 OPS plus this year. Again, I don't even know if he's necessarily available, but again, I'm just threw a name out there. It's the first name that came to my mind. So either way, as far as what kind of a team I do think the Tigers are, I absolutely think they're an American League Central Division title winner. Absolutely. As far as anything else, look, yeah, I mean, I think they are up there as one of the teams that could, at the very least, make it to the ALCS. I mean, if you win the division, you're already one step close. You're 4 wins away from that, right? Or 3 wins away from that. Because that's 3 out of 5. You're 3 wins away from that. I will just say, the league really, I don't think a lot of people have really talked about the Tigers in these terms, certainly in a very long time, but even this year, I don't think they're really talking about it. Hey, man, as Jake Rogers once said, don't let the Tigers get hot, because right now the Tigers are hot, and they've beaten some really good teams, including the Yankees, including, the oh my gosh, I'm blanking on, who was it that, hold on, let me just pull up their schedule. It's a good idea, Mike. You could just pull up the schedule. They've beaten some solid teams. The Yankees are one. The Mariners, they beat on the road as well. They beat the Royals, who are a decent team. They beat the Padres 2 out of 3. The Orioles, another one. And that's just the first month. So don't give me the schedule game. All right, right. Obviously, right now they're gonna have 3 games against the Rockies on the road. I would hope that they could take 3 out of those 3 and just outright sweep them and get back to above 500 on the road. They'll come back home for the Rangers and the Red Sox. Those are 2 kind of feisty teams. Not, blowing you away, but feisty teams. So I do think this Tiger team is legit. That they're not fake. The bar for me for success right now, as it stands, obviously things can change. You gotta win the Central. Gotta win the division. And people need to start talking about the Tigers in some higher terms as well. They should be in the same category of conversation as some of these other big teams. But the reason they aren't, like I said, they don't have that guy that strikes fear into you. And maybe that guy will emerge as time goes. Maybe it's going to be Riley Green. Maybe it's going to be Kerry Carpenter. Maybe it's going to be Torkelson. I don't know. But as of right now, the perception is they don't have that guy. So maybe somebody will become that guy. And maybe we don't need that guy. I don't know. We just keep winning. I'm just enjoying the winning. Too much winning. I can't take it anymore. It's too much winning. How are we going to win so much? It's great. Anyway, it's fun to actually have a good baseball team. It really is. All right. Well, that's it. That's all I got. So I appreciate everybody for stopping by and listening in. It's fun. We covered a lot. Covered NHL, NBA. The only thing we didn't cover was the NFL, which is good because I'm not in the mood to talk football. Not now. No, we got a good baseball team. We got NHL and NBA playoffs. I do not want to talk about football. So either way, I do appreciate anybody for stopping by, listening in, and hanging out. We'll be back next week for more of the sports news of the week. We'll see if, what the playoff picture is looking like in both the NBA and NHL. And, of course, we'll talk about the Tigers because they are the talk of the town. So have a good night, everybody, and I will talk to you all next Tuesday. See ya. See you later. Goodbye.